We'll call the council meeting of July 25th to order. Would you call the roll, please?
Miller,
Yes?
Haig,
Yes.
Briggs.
Yes.
Shivers.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
First item under council discussions is creating a new article titled Renewable Energy Systems in the City of Mexico, Missouri. Mr. Schlegel.
Yes, Your Honor. At last council meeting, there was, we presented this ordinance, and there was some questions about some of the restrictions within it. And then it was decided to table it until the second meeting in August. But we brought it back as a work session item just so that we can get direction on the items that you might want to adjust or change so that we can prepare it for when we do bring it back to what you would like. So, and I think one of the items that you had was an issue was as it related to whether roof-mounted systems could be installed so that whether they be visible or not from the street, I think was one of the issues. And maybe there was a couple of more, but I think that was the one we had the most discussion on. And so I had asked staff to take additional look at that, and I think Andy's got some additional, Andy Fate, our building inspector's got some additional comment on that, and he did some research on it, so I'll turn it over to Andy to give you the rundown there.
So good evening, council.
Good evening.
As Mr. Slagle has spoke, I'm looking into an ordinance for solar energy. We did do a study in regards to the placement of actual solar panels on the front of buildings. If you actually look at the ordinance, section 42-1006, Section A, number 1, location reads, a roof-mounted system shall be installed so as not to be visible from the street in front of a residential structure when viewed from the curb at approximate middle of the primary structure and shall terminate at least 2 feet from the edge of the roof and the ridge of the roof on all structures. Notwithstanding local requirements herein, building and integrated photovoltaic systems may locate on any roof, plane, or wall in compliance with all zoning regulations of the applicable district. Number 2, mounted on the pitch roof. I kind of felt like these two needed to go together because of the way my study took me. So I'm actually including number 2 as well, which is mounting on pitch roofs. Arrays shall be permitted on any pitched roof if the arrays are mounted flush or parallel to the roof plane. Parallel mounting shall be placed no more than 8 inches higher than the roof surface. So against those 2 points, I did a study that encompassed 64 communities that were available in Unicode, utilizing the search criteria of solar or renewable energy. What I found was 31 of the 64 communities don't have anything. That leaves us with 33. Of the 33, 15 of those is solely in their ordinance because they actually provide electrical power to those communities, and this is a solution for them to explain how they're going to buy back that electrical energy that's produced from solar, which leaves 18. Of the 18, 3 say you cannot put it on the front of a building. So it gives me a 15 that we're actually looking at. Of those 15, I'm going to give you some examples. Boonville, Missouri allows solar panels to be installed on any surface of the structure, provided it's not within one of their major travel corridors. So
Major what?
they've got high volume traffic corridors, so your major highways and that's through town, they would disallow panels to the fronts of buildings. The second half of Boonville's is historic buildings. They do not allow solar panels on those buildings. Columbia, Missouri, probably my most challenging review. Columbia obviously is an electrical provider. They actually have programs in Columbia for actually installation of solar. So they're actually paying folks to actually put solar on their houses. They have what's called a solar ready zone. which is 110 degrees to 270 degrees true north is where they want you to actually install those panels. So that point of reference may be the front of your house, maybe the back of your house, what have you. And then finally, Fulton probably has the most open-ended. Fulton states shall provide adequate pathways for access along roof edges and ridge lines to allow for first responder access in the case of fires. So you can have them all over your house. The major thing here is that they have to have pathways. So when I encompass everything that I looked at in that group of 15, the predominant requirement across all communities was the fact that the portion of roof must be left unoccupied to allow for repair and emergency egress or access. Secondly, I would actually like to propose an amendment. The Community Development Department, on my behalf, would like to change number 1, against location, to roof-mounted solar energy collection systems may be located on any roof face of a principal or accessory building that shall not extend above the peak of the roof with an unoccupied area of 2 foot in the front and 4 foot in the rear. You asked where I came up with that. That, believe it or not, that is kind of the predominant measurement that all these 15 communities are using. And then secondly, for mounting on pitch roofs, the mounting of solar arrays to a pitch roof in a parallel or a flush manner is the preferred method. Parallel mounting shall be placed no more than 8 inches higher than the roof surface. If a pitched array mounting system is proposed, the mounting system must be supported by specific engineering drawings. Are there any questions?
That's my main concern, but I guess the question that I would have now, if you search 64 and the majority of communities don't have this, why do we feel we need it? I've never heard anything about solar panels, a problem or anything, so why do we want to be one of the head communities of that, developing technology rather than behind?
I think the main reason is I'm looking into it from a perspective that it's the new trend. So we're seeing a significant amount of folks are actually really starting to get this. I just got another one this week. We wrote a permit for. The actual install fee is actually higher than what the assessed value on the structure is. So, now do you understand my concern? If we're going to install these, I want to kind of make sure that we're actually installing something that is beneficial, it's right, and it's code compliant.
Have we looked at any codes or municipalities in sun states like Arizona, Nevada, California, places that, I'm glad Missouri's on the solar panel. I'm just saying that those states probably are the ones that kind of have led because they have a lot more sun and they can use it a lot. I mean, in those places, they just get a lot, throughout the whole year. I mean, and I'm sure they have something on the books that probably, somewhere within this, so maybe they don't, I don't know. But I would probably look at people who have done it for a long time and have a lot of it, because they probably ran into a lot of the problems that maybe a municipality will see later on down the road once they do start seeing more solar panels come into their community. But
we have to look at the fact that a lot of their structures are a lot different than the type that we have here in Missouri as well. So, sometimes it might end up being more apples to oranges than what we're expecting.
Well, Andy, I got to have fun doing a lot of reading on Solar Energy Day, and I'm kind of like you, but it's funny what you picked up on, I picked up. The industry itself is fast-moving, and there's a lot of engineering. The push is that way. Obviously, we've got to do things to help preserve our planet and our are not, and this climate thing is becoming serious. And they talked about the metal roofs, they talked about, and then they said, like, there are specific things that make it really much more effective, like if you have a certain pitch to your roof, and you put it on a certain side, then you get, if you put it on the north side of your house, it cuts the efficiency 50%. You can put it on the southeast, but that still cuts it 20%. So I had kind of fun reading about it, but it's also the battery technology that goes along with it now, because people the batteries are improving, and people now can also store even though you talked about them not getting sun on solar panels, they still can store that energy. Now the concerns are people maybe making more energy than maybe they need and selling it, and so you get in conflict with other public entities with that. And it was interesting about your comments about Columbia, because Columbia does make its own electricity. It's also coal-fired energy. I don't know if they're interested themselves in reducing it, and they're also a town full of engineers probably. And but in any case, I think we have to be cognizant of that the future is going to be a little different, because if you look at the building codes from 2015, there are things now that weren't allowed in 2015 now. That's no longer consideration because the solar panels themselves have changed, and they've gotten more aesthetically pleasing and probably more efficient with the battery storage. Also, you read in 2015 how people worried about them cutting down on the value of their property. Now you're reading how it is increasing the value of the property. So as long as you are up on it, and I certainly think the city council would be wise in to make sure that people like you who are very smart and also get the education you need on all of this and stay up to date on it. But as long as you are have addressed those issues of fire safety and not making sure people get shortchanged on what they want. But it's becoming more competitive, and it's certainly not something we can turn our backs on. So I thank you for your doing the research and speaking to us this evening.
Thank you.
At this point, you're going to rewrite this proposal and get it back to us, is that what you're saying? Okay.
Are there other changes that you've thought about in the last couple of weeks that you might like them to consider?
No, but I have two questions. One thing is, I'm doing some reading too. I'm going to make a comment and then a question. Comment is, I'm glad you're doing something about the disposal, because that's becoming a big problem in California right now. Up until now, they've been putting it in landfills. And now they're figuring out there's so many now. They're like, and it's seeping into the groundwater. So I'm glad to see that we're doing something with that. And the second is, some communities are just kind of trying to shy away from it, because something that they don't think about, that I didn't think about, is it really cuts down on our taxes, our utility tax, because you don't get any money when you put them on the roof. So that's why some communities have said,
Because the franchise tax,
Yeah.
And you're right, I mean, and some of them still their issue is aesthetics and everything else, and you don't have to go very far from us to where they've passed ordinances that said, no, you're not going to have them, so.
I think we have to do what suits our community the best and meets our needs. And I don't know that you can say to people you can't have access to the sun's energy.
Yeah.
So, anyway, thank you.
Okay, Andy, thank you. Next item is renaming Garfield Park to Ramen Loop Park. Chad Shoemaker or Mr. Slagle.
Yes, Your Honor. As we heard the proposal from Mr. Earl, and then council had asked that the park board take a look at that and make a recommendation and do a little research on it. They've done that, and they have got their opinions, and we'll turn to Chad Shoemaker to go over what the park board discussed and what they would like to recommend.
Good evening. So as you know, Dan Ertl came to the park board after Dan Ertl came to the council. and it's in your packet, the minutes from that meeting. Before Mr. Ertl came and made his proposal to the park board, the city clerk graciously went back and helped us find the notes from the previous time that this was considered, so that park board would have all of the arguments that, came forth at that point in time, in addition to anything that they heard in the proposal now. Long and the short is, Mr. Ertl made his presentation, and then he left. And the park board, in his absence, had a vigorous discussion. A couple things came about. One, they were unanimous in agreeing that it's time to consider moving forward as a community and recognize people that are currently making big contributions to the community, and that they recommended the city council should rename Garfield Park to Ron Liu Park. They felt like the existing shelter name, staying Garfield, was somewhat important to them. They also pretty much universally thought that as a community we need to do a better job of recognizing the contributions the Garfield School made to this community and the history that exists there, and that maybe that's not just something endemic on the Parks Department, but the whole community, and they wanted to make sure that I brought that forward. So as you can see, they made a motion to recommend that we rename Garfield Park to Ron Liu Park, and it was seconded, and it carried universally ayes with no abstentions, no nays.
Questions, anyone?
So do you think will the park board then recommend at some point exactly how we might recognize or go about the recognition of Garfield School and such?
I don't know that we need any further action from the council for my department to get involved in that. We already do interpretive signage and programs in other areas, and we've been working on that. Some of my contacts on the Garfield School side of things have hooked me up with a Facebook page where we can get pictures and we can start designing some interpretive signage. But the reality is that not all of that happened in the park area. There's a lot of other area that's north of the park where it was very significant in all of that. There's more to be done than simply interpretive signage.
Well, all I was going to say is, council, if you wish to proceed with recommendation, what we would recommend is we schedule a public hearing so that if the public has anything further to say about this, they can come before you to do so. And then after the public hearing, we would have an ordinance that would actually make the change, because it is referenced in city code, so we would have to make sure that it's done officially and legally in order to make the name change.
I would also recommend in the future, for future references, that we come up with some kind of policy, because I appreciate what Lou's done for the community, but I can name several people like Seidenstricker and other people that have done huge things for this community as well. So what is the criteria going to be that deserves those kind of recognitions? And so I don't know if we need to come up with some kind of way that does or not, because there are lots of people that have done a lot directly for the city and worked with the city and the county. I say Eddie because I know that one. I mean, he donated the land for the Plant Science Center and helped a lot to get that here. So, so I think going forward, we need something to say, this is the criteria going forward. So.
I think this was more because he used to practice there so much and different things. And I think that's what you see with a lot of other, at least the other towns and communities I've lived in over time. A lot of times it had to either do with, either they went to school someplace or they did something. And I agree. There are a lot of people in this area that have made major contributions. And so.
Okay, so they're going to we're going to schedule a public hearing.
If that's your council's wishes to proceed with, that's the way we would handle it.
Everybody?
Back as a public hearing and an ordinance.
Shall we skip the 8th? Because we already have the 8th pretty full.
Right. And we have to publish for the public hearing and
Okay.
everything too, and we were discussing the time frame, so it'll probably be the second meeting
Right.
as well, yeah.
Yeah, the 8th's already pretty loaded up. Okay.
So that would be the 22nd.
Okay, under other business, consideration of future discussion items. Mr. Slagle?
Yeah, I just wanted to remind council that at the August 8th, the next meeting in 2 weeks, we will have the budget work session, and we will begin at 4 o'clock. And then we will take the regular meeting at 6, and then go back to work session as needed to finish up. So we'll try to get you out here in 4 hours, and we'll have something for you to eat.
Project updates? Anything, Mr. Slagle?
Don't think we have anything at this time, Your Honor.
Okay.
I make a motion to adjourn into regular session.
Second.
Great.
Miller,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Okay, would you call a roll for the regular session, please?
Miller,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Okay, the first item would be the approval of the minutes.
Move for approval.
They have to be amended. Do you want to do that, Vicki?
I'm sorry.
We're doing minutes. You
Oh.
talked about that. You want to, it's got a
Okay,
mistake.
on the, I'm sorry. Okay, I was elsewhere. Okay, on the minutes and the ones, even the ones that you may have been handed in the last hour, there is a mistake in the minutes on page 2. And the one and I'm looking at that was sent to us, under the new business, under ordinance bill number 2022, you read down to the paragraph where it says, "Council Member Shivers moved for passage of Bill 2022-33." Under the votes, Mr. Hague did not vote aye on that. He's to go under no. And that would make it correct, right, Marcy?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so I would offer an amendment that we change the minutes to reflect that.
Have a second?
Second.
Miller,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Now I need a motion to approve the amendments as
And it has to be as amended.
amended.
Right.
Making a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Second?
Miller,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Next item is Bill number 2022-38, an ordinance for the purpose of providing for the annexation of territory in the existing corporate boundaries of the City of Mexico. Two readings by title only, passage. Mr. Slagle.
Yes, Your Honor. At the last council meeting, we held the public hearing and to receive the petition for Property Investments of Mexico, as well as SP8 LLC, to annex their property into the city limits of Mexico. This property is predominantly located east of Pearl Motor Company, off of Dorelli Lane. The annexation requests are reasonable and necessary for the proper development of the city, and we can certainly furnish the normal municipal services to the area. Following the public hearing, by law, you're required to wait 14-day period in case any objections are received. We have received none. Therefore, the ordinance is attached for the annexation, and we'd recommend council proceed with 2 readings by title only and passage of the ordinance, and the ordinance has been posted as required length of time.
I move for first reading Bill number 2022-38.
Second.
Miller,
Yes. Oh, abstain.
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Bill number 2022-38, an ordinance for the purpose of providing for the annexation of territory to the existing corporate boundaries of the City of Mexico, Missouri. I move for second reading of Bill number 2022-38.
Second.
Miller,
Abstain.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Bill number 2022-38, an ordinance for the purpose of providing for the annexation of territory to the existing corporate boundaries of the City of Mexico, Missouri. I move for passage of Bill number 2022-38.
Second.
Miller,
Abstain.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Shivers.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Next item, number 10, resolution, bill number 2022-39, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute agreement with various organizations for recommended funding for the Mexico tourism tax. Mr. Slade.
Yes, Your Honor. The Tourism Commission met and discussed two applications for funding. The first being First State Community Bank and the Village Square Association to receive funding. The First State Community Bank is for the Character, Purpose, and Passion event, and they recommend $1,000. The Village Square Association for the event of Moonlight Madness, and they recommended funding $400. At this time, staff would recommend council concur with the Tourism Commission's recommendation and proceed with reading by title only and passage of the attached resolution.
Move for reading of bill number 2022-39.
Second.
Miller,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Shivers.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Bill number 2022-39, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute agreements with various organizations for recommended money from the Mexico tourism tax. I move for passage of bill number 2239.
Second.
Miller,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Shivers.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is other business staff reports. Purchase of a conveyor parts for the wastewater department. Mr. Slade.
Yes, Your Honor, we have had a breakdown at the wastewater treatment plant on the conveyor for the solids, and to cover the details of the recommended purchase, Drew Welford.
Good evening, Council. One of the perhaps lesser-known items in our wastewater treatment process is our land application. We apply our waste solids to fields for farmers in both solid and liquid format. And part of the solid process, we have a conveyor system, which actually is the system that elevates it and drops it into the distributor trap. Unfortunately, that conveyor system is having issues, and the issues are such that we need to replace the conveyor belts and the pulleys. The problem, of course, is that it's a proprietary system, and it's a conveyor belt that has sidewalls, and it's a compartmentalized belt. So we're looking at a cost that certainly exceeds the $10,000 threshold and is close to $20,000. Actually, our estimate came in at $19,479.50, and the bulk of that is actually the belt itself. We were able to, it is a proprietary system, so we approached Municipal Equipment. They are the sole source for this particular conveyor system. And we do have the funds in our wastewater equipment replacement line item to procure this. So we're recommending that council concur with purchasing the conveyor belt and the appropriate pulleys. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer it.
It's still running?
It actually is still running.
Is it going to hold out for the 12 to 16 weeks?
They do have it running. It's unknown if it will hold out for the 12 to 16 weeks.
What happens if it does not hold out and we don't have parts?
We don't land apply. We start building up most likely in our lagoon system. And we can liquid apply still, but for every single, in essence, cake load, every solid load, essentially it takes 3 liquid, maybe even 4 liquid loads. So it quickly builds up in our lagoon system.
Okay.
So having this functional is actually imperative to the overall process.
Are you going to be able to get it maybe sooner than 12 to 16 weeks?
That I don't know.
You don't know.
According to their own estimate, they provided us 12 weeks would be the absolute minimum. So we'll see.
Pleasure to the board.
I make a motion that we purchase the conveyor belt.
Second.
Miller,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Shivers.
Yes.
Williams.
Yep.
Next item is payment of the claims.
Make a motion to pay the bills.
Somebody want a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Miller,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs.
Yes.
Shivers.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Next item are comments. We start with the council. We'll start with Mr. Haig.
Nothing really this time. It's good to see a little rain today. Wish we'd get a little bit more, so I'll pass it on to you all.
Okay. Mr. Williams.
Just glad the heat is broken finally. So we had CMCA tournament in a vase this past weekend, and it was super duper hot, and we had a lot of kids have a lot of problems. So glad that's broke out, and hopefully we're going to try and get that tournament in Mexico next year. So.
Mrs. Briggs.
Well, you all read your council notes, and the people who are putting the seal down on Briarwood Circle, and Mike and I were sitting on the swing watching it. It was really interesting, and all of a sudden they come around and send our whole mailbox snapped at the base, just totally flying. And of course they were horrified, and they were. And my husband just mentioned that that I was also on the council, so that's horrified even more. And but they were really nice. They were super nice. I really appreciated their courtesy, and they came back first thing the next morning and put a new mailbox in, whole thing, concrete, everything. So I'm pleased with that. So, and I'll try and get their name and thank them, but they did a great job. So, and by the way, the street looks great too.
Dr. Shivers.
I don't have anything to say. I was gone most of the time since the last we met, so.
Okay. Mr. Schlegel.
Nothing at this time?
Well, I concur with your rain, if you call that a rain that we had. I'm not sure if that's a rain, but let's hope we get some more. If nothing else, we go open up to the public. Seeing no public there, I move we adjourn.
Second.
Miller,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs. Yes. Shivers.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.